Hey everyone, Robert here from Blackbird Studio ILM, and I am here to show you, as a new beginner who's thinking about getting into some turning and making some pens, just how simple it is. I'm brand new to turning. I've only been doing it for about 3 days. I've made a total of, I believe, 7 pens. I already had a large collection of blanks, but I'm going to show you how you can use one of these, which is a lathe. You need either a pen lathe, a mini lathe, or like this is a midi lathe, which is in between size, mid-size. But I'm going to show you how you can turn one of these into one of these. It's simple and anyone can do it. All right, so these are the tools you're going to need for pen turning. You're going to need the lathe, like I already explained. You're going to need a pen vise of some type or a drill press. This is going to be to perfectly center your hole that you drill through your blanks after you cut them down to the size you need. This one came from Rockler. I also have installed the pen vise, which has some notches cut out of it that perfectly hold your blank square for this drill bit to go down in. You're going to need a drill bit. First you're going to need to pick out your pen kit. This is a slim line. Uses 7mm, so you need to make sure that you have the drill bit that matches the size of the tubes of the pen kit that you choose. In addition to the drill bit being a 7mm, this is a reamer. It also needs to be sized to the kit that you're using. What this does is the blades on the tip of it clear any excess dried in CA glue out of the inside of the brass tubes. The teeth down here square off the blank to the tube and cut it down so that it is even with the edge of the brass tube. You're going to need some CA glue with accelerator, which I'm throwing around. I've got some sandpaper. This will be to rough up that brass tube before we glue it into place so that the glue's got something to grab hold of. Glove, paper towel, and this is going to be the most important part of the kit. This is a set made by Rikon. This is by far my favorite. Even though I have not been turning long, this is my 3rd set. First set I bought was a hardened steel set from Harbor Freight. Did my first pen with that and realized that I really was enjoying it and was going to want to keep going with it, so I bought an inexpensive carbide tip set from either Rockler or Woodcraft, I'm not sure which. It works pretty well for acrylic pens, not so well for wood. So I went ahead and got this Rikon set, and this will last me for a lifetime. Nice thing about this one, in addition to the interchangeable heads, which, by the way, you just loosen your tip, it pulls straight out. You can change it out. I've got a square head as well as a diamond tip. Tightens down. I like the long handle. It's very easy to tuck it against my body when I'm turning. Holding it on the tool rest gives me a lot more control for nice, smooth, straight cuts. And that's about it as far as tools you'll need to get the pen ready to assemble. The last thing you need at the end is a pen press. This is how you press all the different parts together with your blank to put it all into pen format. So with that having been said, let's get started making a pen. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pen kit. You're going to need the tubes out of this. The slim line, the 2 tubes are the same size, same length. Other kits, they're different lengths. There are some kits that only have a single tube based on the pen kit that you choose. Knowing these are both the same size, I'm going to cut both of them out of a single blank. And if you have a strong grain pattern, you're going to want to keep the 2 tubes right up against each other as close as you can so the grain will be continuous through the pen when you get done. This is sycamore that I've chosen. It doesn't have a huge grain pattern going, a little bit here. I am still going to keep my grain structure going the same way, so the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to mark it. So that way once it's cut, it'll cut somewhere in here. I'll be able to line these up on the mill, the lathe, so that it will all work out straight. So now I'm going to go step over to the table saw and cut this 2 blanks. All right, always remember, for safety, eyes and ears first. Got my eyes on, got my ears on. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blank. I already marked it. I know I want to start from this edge. So I'm going to line it up perfectly, and then I'm going to give myself about 1/8 of an inch of extra space in there. And what that's going to do is give me enough to make sure that I don't run short in case my saw kerf, it does not go right where I want it to. So this I'm going to set here where it's safe. Always, always, always use a crosscut sled. At the very least, a miter gauge. When you're cutting these, you're going to be dealing with some very small pieces for your second cut. Alright, so there's my first cut. Never worked with sycamore before, and there's some nice grain in here. I think it's really going to turn out to be a beautiful pen. Now, since these are both the same length, I am just going to match it up. Make my mark for my second blank. If they were not the same length, I'd be using each individual tube to mark what is needed for that piece, for that tube. All right, there we go. We've got our two blanks. We're ready to assemble. Okay, so now I'm going to speed this up, but what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be drilling my blank with this. I'm going to ream it out, both sides with this, and then I'm going to get ready to glue it in, and I'll show you a little bit more about that when I get to that point. All right, so we're ready to glue up at this point. This is where you're going to rough up your pen blanks. Some pen blanks come already roughed up, some come perfectly smooth. These ones are already roughed up. But I always like to take my sandpaper and rough them up a little bit more just for my peace of mind. I think I can get better job of getting the grooves in there that are needed. Look, my other one over here. So I'm roughing them up, and all it takes is a few turns with the heavy sandpaper, 60 grit, 80 grit, maybe in and out a little bit. And that's it. So now I'm going to take each one of these. So this is where my glove comes in. Do not want to get CA glue all over my hands. Paper towel comes in. Any drips of CA glue. Any CA glue will work. You just need to make sure you have the CA glue and the accelerator. The accelerator is the important part. So I'm just going to put some on here, spread it around. Covering as much of it as I can up to my gloves. You don't want too much excess, because all that's going to do is build up inside the tube potentially. Now I'm just going to insert blank. While I'm going in, I'm going to twist it. Some people say to go in and out like this. Other people say not to do that, because what that'll do is potentially introduce CA glue inside the tube. The way I look at it, that's what the reamer is for. So you twist as far as you can, then you're going to seat it. You want to make sure that your brass is inset into the wood on both sides. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to hit both ends with the accelerator. Set it off while you do the other one. Repeat the process for your second blank. Done with the glove. Now I'm just going to give about 10 seconds for this to dry. Need to make sure that I get it off of my paper towel that's got the glue on it, the CA glue on it. So once this has had a chance to dry and harden up, you know, with the accelerator, it's almost instantaneous. I'm going to take my reamer. I'm going to come in here from the end. Now this one, the tube is fairly far inset, so I'm just going to start right off with this because I'm going to have to use a lot of pressure with my reamer to get all the way in there. One more notch. This is where the channel locks really come in handy, especially if they've got the notches in there. Actually need one more. There we go. All right, so holding on tight. Just going to start going in and out to clean out that tube. As you'll see, I could not get enough pressure with this reamer to really do a whole lot with wood. So I'm going to brace it on the top. want to go, if you can see, until the brass is shiny. I'm not sure if you can see that on the video. But once you first touch the brass and get it shiny, you know you're done. There, that one's shiny, so I'm done with that one. There we got the shine on both sides. So our pen blanks are ready to go. We are done with all of this for now. We'll use the CA glue and the accelerator on the finish. Most of the time I use a CA finish that really puts the super deep shine on it, like you saw on those other pens. Every once in a while, if there's a real interesting grain pattern, I'll just use some EEE Ultra Shine followed by some seal wax, and that will keep the grain structure intact. You'll be able to feel the grain in your hand, but it'll still put a decent luster on that. So now let's step over to the lathe. All right, so one thing I forgot to mention, in addition to your pen kit, the drill bit, the reamer, all needing to be sized correctly to the pen kit that you're using, you also need what are called bushings. Every pen kit has a set of bushings. Some pen kits will double up. One set of bushings can be used for multiple different pens. With the slim lines, I've already got them sitting here. It's a 3-piece because there's 2 pieces of wood in the kit. So you're gonna have a bushing on the end, one in between the 2, and one at the end. And what the bushings do is they help you size the ends of the wood to perfectly match the size of the tip of the pen, the center of the pen, and the end cap of the pen when you assemble them, so you don't have a whole lot of real big ledges right in that spot. So I've got my mandrel, which is a piece that fits into the lathe that holds all your pen parts. So I'm going to put on one bushing, and remember I had these marked, so I'm going to locate my lines. There we go. They line up. Now I'm going to decide which I want to be the front end, which I want to be the back end. You know, I want this to be the front end, so that's going to slide on first. Then I'm going to have a center bushing go on. Then the second part is going to go on. Sometimes it's tight. If it's too tight, go ahead and get your utility knife and kind of scrape it around the edges on the end of the brass fittings in your blank, and that tends to fix that problem. So what I've got here, I've got what's called a mandrel saver. Normally with a lathe, you've got a piece here, a live center, that's got a point on it. The point would go into the tip of the mandrel. In order to do that, I'd have to use spacers, they're called, which you can buy, which would fill this gap down to the threaded part, and there is a brass knob that would thread onto there to keep this nice and tight. But with the mandrel saver, it's got a hollow end in here. It also spins on bearings. It slides right up against tight, so you get it nice and tight, lock it down. Now this knob extends this part farther out to tighten it up even more. Make sure this is loose. I'm going to tighten it up nice and snug. And then I'm going to lock it down. All right, so you should be able to feel that that's not going anywhere. And now through the process of movie magic, I'm going to get started on this. Let you see some of it going at regular speed, then I'm going to speed up for a while, and I'll stop periodically to explain to you what's going on and where things are standing. First thing you want to know though, when you're starting out, you have square, round, so you're going to be hitting the edges, right? But not the centers. And that's what's supposed to happen. That's why you go very slowly and you keep just barely chipping away at the wood back and forth, and eventually you'll get down to where it's round, and you'll be able to tell the difference in the pieces that are coming off when it gets to that point. So here we go. As you can see, the lathe is not loud. I don't need any type of hearing protection with it or not. So you want to kind of brace yourself. You don't want to be moving your arms. You want to tuck in. If you've got a smaller tool, you want to hold it nice and snug. Your hand rests against the hand rest. And what you're doing is you're just slowly sliding your body down. Now, I'm not sure if you just saw that or not. A big chunk just flew off right here in the center. That's because there was a long overhang at the end of the brass tube where the reamer cut down in to get it nice and smooth with the brass tube. So that was breaking off or cutting off that long edge. So as you're going, you can see lines moving along your blank, and that's where you're cutting. As the line moves, you've got a lower spot and a higher spot, and as you're cutting, the line moves because you're cutting the wood away, so you got more of the lower spot. Let me see. All right, so we are round now. Every once in a while you want to stop and check it. If you use too much pressure, it can actually stop the blank while the mandrel is spinning around, which you don't want to do. All right, so I'm done with this part. If you feel it, you'll feel that it is not smooth. That's what you're going to use sandpaper for next. In order to set up for the sandpaper, I'm going to get rid of my hand rest. I'm done with that. First thing I'm going to do is vacuum up some of this sawdust so I can actually see what is going on here. It makes a lot of sawdust when you're doing an acrylic. If you check some of my other videos, you can see just how much acrylic comes off, and it is in ribbons once you get down to the round size of the blank. So now I'm going to use sandpaper. Just like before, I'm going to start out with the 80. I'm going to step my way up. I'm going to go 80, 120, 180, and then 240. Does not take long. Don't use too much pressure, especially with these lower grits. They will actually eat it away and totally change your profile and can ruin your blank. All right, so most pen turners will call that good enough. I myself don't. I like to take it a step further when I'm going to coat with acrylic. Actually, let me check the grain on this. I like that grain feel. I think I'm just going to use my Triple E and Shellawax to finish this one up so I can actually feel that grain structure. You'll be able to feel these grooves also, which if you use the acrylic, those are all going to be filled in, and this is going to be smooth. So you'll be able to see them, but you won't be able to feel it all. So I want to be able to feel those. So that means at this point, I'm going to leave it there. I'm not going to take it to the 400, 600, 800 grit. This is ready for finishing at this point. One thing I'm going to do, if you were doing an acrylic using a CA finish, you want to use some non-stick bushings. You would remove these bushings, put your non-sticks on, which are a nylon material that the CA glue doesn't stick to. Since I'm doing the Shellawax and the Triple E, don't really need to do that. So the Triple E is actually a paste. It's called Triple E Ultra Shine. This is made by U-Butte Polishes. Going to start off with just a little piece of paper towel. Going to get some of this paste on. And I'm just going to kind of twist while I rub this on. You want it on kind of heavy so you can see that it's actually on there. Especially put it in good right there in those grooves that we made. We're going to do that to both halves of the blanks. I got plenty of the Triple E on here for both sides of this blank. Now you need to slow down your lathe. A lot of lathes are digital. You just punch in the numbers to slow it down. Mine is manual, so I've got to slow it down by myself. So now that piece of paper towel that I used, I'm just going to fold it over to a new clean spot. Start it up. And I'm just going to use a little bit of friction back and forth. A little bit of pressure. Now one thing you are going to want to do is, I always wear a work apron to keep all the wood shavings off of me, but you're going to need something to get down into those grooves. So I'm just using the back side of a utility knife with a paper towel. Alright, so now that is ready. You know what? I am not happy with this part right here. I'm not sure if you can see in the video. This is not supposed to be the grooves, but it kind of is a groove. So I'm going to go ahead and at this point take a step back. It's a nice thing, especially about this finish. If you realize something isn't how you like it, you can sand it back down a bit, redo the finish. So I'm gonna go grab my 80 grit that got thrown. And I'm gonna be very careful with this just to get the spot that I want to fix. So now that is much better. Now I'm just gonna go up through my grits. All right, so now I'm gonna get a new piece of paper towel and I'm going to go through that process again. Much better, much better. See, it's definitely worth taking that little bit of time. If it's not exactly how you want it, that little bit of time right now can make a big difference in how your finished product turns out. So the last step is the shallow wax, which is a liquid. It is a high temperature friction polish. So when you put this on, you want your lathe to be on high speed, and you're going to actually get to where you can feel the heat. And as it heats up, gets hot enough, it's going to start to shine, and it's going to put a polymer finish that bonds with the wood. And that's what's going to give you that ability to get the high shine. It is a very thin liquid, so be careful at first. Don't need a huge amount, but you definitely need to make sure you get full coverage. Now she's flying. Now take a look at it. If you're not happy with the shine that you got on there, you can put another coat of the Sheila wax on there and go from there, which I think I'm going to do to try and get a little bit deeper shine on that. There we go. Our blanks are done. It may adhere to the mandrel. There is one bushing. There's the front part of my pen. Second bushing. Back part does not want to let go. So I've got a couple little tricks. What I do, I use a bushing. I've got a much larger one in here that I use specifically for this purpose. I'm going to slide it on here. I'm going to step over to my workbench and I'm just going to give it a few taps. Now, and take that off. There's my back, my last bushing, my tapper bushing. Make sure you keep your bushings separated, well marked. I actually use this little container. I've got them all labeled inside what the bushing is for. Where I don't have to keep rebinding them as I get new pens. All right, so now we're set up to continue on with the assembly. A quality pen press makes a huge difference. It can make difference between you enjoying what you're doing and despising it. So this is a good one. This came from Penn State Industries. Rockler makes an upgraded one as well. It's easy to adjust, which you will make multiple adjustments based on what you're doing. This is also a disassembly press, so if you do something wrong, if you put a piece in the wrong place, it came with some parts and the ability to actually remove and separate parts that you've already pressed together. So now you're going to dump out the rest of your parts, and with a slim line, here are your instructions. This will actually take you through step by step how to set it up on the mandrel, the turning, everything. I've done a number of slim lines, so I already know how to do it and how it goes. So What I like to do is open all my bags, get all of my parts out, inventory them. That way, at least I am 100% sure that I'm not missing a part before I start assembling, because if so, I would just switch over to another kit and take the parts that I need out of that other kit. So we should have a tip and a clip, which are right there. This is going to be my end cap. This is my center band, my mechanism, and my ink refill. So the first thing you're going to do is put your tip into the end of your end blank. So I know we lined them up so that we could get the grain pattern matching up. Problem is, at this point, it's hard to tell which edge that grain pattern actually came through. I believe it came this way, maybe somewhere along there. Not a huge deal. Some woods it really is. Yeah, I think that right there is where it joined up. So I'm going to put my tip in this end. Sometimes you're going to put your tip, decide where to put your tip based on how it feels in your hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tip and try and get it just barely seated into there if it will stay. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to set my pen press up. This piece is spring-loaded. So, and there's also a tip cutout in the center here for the tip of your pen. So I want the tip of my pen in that cutout. I'm going to get it as straight as I can. Use the spring in here to get this one locked into somewhere in the middle. Now I'm going to hold this square as much as I can without pinching my fingers while I press this in. Sometimes, if you've got this too far away, you may need to press it, move this forward a little bit, press it the rest of the way, and I had it in a good position, which is strange for me. I do not normally do that. So now I'm going to use my mechanism, and on the slim lines, not sure if you can see, there is actually a groove. There's the gold tip part, and then there's a groove. That groove is how far you want to press that in as your standard. Sometimes you need to adjust that a little bit. So I always go a little bit shy of that line, and I'll put my pen or my pen insert in there, test it and see if that's good or if I need to press it in there some more. So you just screw your pen in there, twist it, okay, it's coming out. Take that wax off the end. Now you want to twist it in, make sure it goes all the way in, it does. I want it to stick out a little bit further than that, so that means I'm going to press it in all the way to that line. You can even take it past that line if you want it to stick out further, just so long as it does not stick out past the end when it's all the way retracted. Now to me, that's much better. So I'm going to take my center band, it slides on here next. And now we're done with this part. All we have left to do is the end. Now I want these grooves closer to the center. So I'm going to take my end cap, it's going to go into the clip. That is going to go into the end where I wanted it. It's going to have to move up. Now you're just going to press it in. There we go. Sometimes you have to rotate it, get it if it's not lining up perfectly. That slides on there, and there you have it. A sycamore pen done with triple E finish and shallow wax, so you can actually feel the grain. Has a nice natural look to it. I think it accentuates the satin gold finish on this kit very nicely. This is a beautiful pen to add to the collection. So this is going to take its place right there. All right, so in closing, what do we know? We know that from start to finish, it's taken about an hour of video time. So I will definitely be cutting that way down using the magic of 2x, 3x, 4x speed on a lot of my lathe work and stuff like that, the parts that get cut out. But start to finish for a novice, brand new wood turner, that's how you do it. That is how you take a chunk of wood and turn it into a piece of art that you alone came up with. There are so many different variations you can do. Your creativity, your imagination really is the limit. Keep testing it, keep trying it, keep at it. You're gonna love it, just like I do. As always, if you enjoyed this content, a subscribe, a like, and a comment would be great. Comment on it telling me what you think. I know this is a long video. Hopefully you have made it all the way to the end. If you have made it to the end, go ahead and use the keyword cherry at the very beginning of your comment. I'll make sure that I get a real personal reply to you because I know that you took the time to actually watch through this entire video. Keep in mind we have our 100 member giveaway as soon as we hit 100 subscribers, so hit that subscribe button. As always, be safe. Have a great day.